I've got another new drum library from Ugritone for you today, and this is the Total Studio Drums. And unlike a lot of their other offerings, which are mostly all metal, punk, hardcore oriented, this one is maybe a little more natural, a little more pop, rock, country compatible, but it also works for metal. And I'm a fan of more natural, more polished drum libraries myself. I think that it's easier to push something to be more brutal and more metal if you want it, rather than take away something that's already more processed and more raw. So I'm a fan of this one, and I think it sounds really good. So we're going to check out a demo, and then I'm going to go through all of the presets, and you can hear just the raw presets, and I'm going to play it all on my E-Kit. So first off, I've got a demo song that I wrote with these drums, and I thought, what better way to challenge the versatility of this drum library than to run it through sort of multiple genres, different levels of clean and crunch and high gain guitars, as well as kind of different tunings, because while I played it all on my 8-string, a lot of it's more standard tuning, and then I get down into some 8-string riffs. So let's check out the demo, and you can hear it being put through its paces with this mix. I think the Total Studio Drums performed really well in this mix. They were natural, but they were also easy to mix. I didn't have to do a lot of processing. I started with Ron's kind of metal preset, and I tested out the different snares and kicks just to see what fit best, what I preferred, and so I changed those up a little bit. And then, of course, I always do the multi-out routing and tweak the levels a little bit just to make everything work as good as possible in the mix. As far as any actual effects on my end, I used Audio Assault's Head Crusher, which is a saturation plugin that just gives the kick and the snare and the toms a little more aggression, a little more weight and some compression. And I didn't use any extra compression. I just used a little bit of EQ on the kick and the snare to just get those to fit in the mix just right. And then the SSL bus compressor on the drum bus. Very mild, but just sort of tightening everything up, bringing up the levels a little bit. So not much in terms of effects, just mainly leveling and choosing the right kit pieces and doing a little bit of light polishing. But I kept the mix pretty much just out of the box as much as possible. I found that all the kit pieces sounded really good. The tuning on everything is good. The head choices, the drum choices, cymbals, really all make a nice cohesive package, and there's nice room and reverb effects in this plugin, so I like all that stuff, It does have a nice natural sound. It's not as raw as some of Ugritone's other stuff, and maybe not quite as vibey as some of them, but I'm a fan of that because I'd rather process it more myself if that's what I want. You can always EQ something yourself. You can't un-EQ something that's been very processed or just doesn't sound that good to begin with. So all of the sampling is really clean, nice, professional. Next, I'm going to go through all of the presets, and I haven't done any processing. They're totally raw. Just me playing on the E-kit with each of the presets, kind of being inspired by each of them and giving you a little bit of raw playing and the raw sounds of each of the presets so you can hear how they sound without any touching on my end. I always like to offer some constructive criticism, and I don't really have any complaints here with the drums or the sampling, the sound of the plugin, but it is the same Ugritone drums plugin, which does have a few quirks to it. I do find that it takes a long time to load, like the presets, just to load the library. Switching presets seems to take a long time compared to other plugins like Slate drums. I have it all on a solid state drive, so it should be fast, but it does take a little while to load. Not a big deal, but, a minor quality of life thing. The UI, I've said before, I think could look nicer, but, that would require a big overhaul. I like the background graphic of this library in particular, but the main menus and stuff, I think they're okay. They're perfectly usable, but they're not the most beautiful by modern standards, but that's an aesthetic choice. I also think some of the options in terms of like velocity curves, MIDI mapping, some of that could be improved a little bit. Again, if you look at something like Slate drums, or I've been using the Hertz drums a lot. I like that plugin. Those just offer a little more in terms of the detail over velocity curves and stuff that does matter with an E-kit. Don't have any problem getting a good sound out of the Ugritone drum stuff, but it doesn't have quite all the features and bells and whistles, which, are nice to have and I do use, but, not a big deal. I think also the velocity layers, the amount of different velocity layers in this plugin is a little more limited. I'm not sure how many there are. I think there's enough to get a perfectly good and even professional level sound for almost anything, especially when you're doing metal and rock stuff. You're not doing solo jazz or anything. That's always kind of hard to do with a sample library. So again, not a big deal, but I think it is a little more noticeable on some of the instruments when you're playing, the just snare on its own or the toms. It's maybe not the most detailed in terms of velocity layers, but it doesn't really matter that much in a mix. So, overall, I think the plugin is good. I like using the Ugritone stuff. I feel like I can get just as good results with it as just about anything else. And it mostly comes down to the drum sounds and the actual library. And in this case, I think it's a really nicely done library at a professional studio, good room sounds, good drums. So I like to see all that. I like to see the quality on their products keep improving, it seems like, every time they do a new set. So I'm totally a fan of Total Studio Drums. I think it's a great sounding library, offers good versatility for a wide array of genres, and I think it sounds cool in metal, especially if you do maybe older styles of metal, but it seemed to do just fine with the more modern 8-string gentler stuff anyways. You might just want to give it a little more aggression when you're mixing, but that's no problem. You should be able to handle that. And having a really good, solid foundation is, in my opinion, the most important thing for a drum library. So we have some high quality, modern studio drums here, and I like to see that. Previously, I've done videos on the Tight Studio drums and the Drums Against Humanity, and both of those offer something a little different from the Total Studio drums. I really like this one. It's kind of up my alley in terms of what it offers. The Drums Against Humanity is also really great, and I enjoyed that one a lot. It's definitely more metal, a little more mixed out of the box and more aggressive, and offers a lot of chinas, so that's a fun one. Definitely recommend checking that out. But the Total Studio drums is a little more natural, a little more neutral, more useful for lighter genres and stuff. And the Tight Studio drums is also a cool one. I do think the Total Studio drums is more polished than that one, though you may prefer the sound of that. I don't know. It all depends on what you're going for. But I do recommend checking out the Total Studio drums, giving it a listen, giving it a demo, and seeing if it's something that you would enjoy working with. So, as always, please smash like. Absolutely. Sorry, I almost got confused there. You must smash like. It's important for the algorithm. And subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video.